Last summer, I did one of the craziest things I've ever done in my quest for healing, where I went on a 36-hour overnight hiking trek to Acatenango Volcano in Guatemala. Before I share more about what I was healing from, let me get into the logistics of the hike package. We booked through the Tropicana hostel in Antigua, Guatemala, and the package was $85 per person. All the meals were included in the package. These are our lunch boxes for the trek. We had a hot breakfast at the hostel before taking off, and I love that they were able to accommodate my vegan and gluten-free diet. Here's the snack bar with little baggies so you could grab some to go. And after getting all checked in and fed, we headed over to the bus for an hour-long ride to the base of the mountain. We rented backpacks and hiking boots from the hostel, and they provided us with 4 liters of water, which we had to carry up ourselves. So let me get into what exactly I was healing from. A few months prior to this, I was targeted and attacked in a ladies' room at a concert by an online follower, a group of followers who knew who I was, and I had no idea who they were. Myself and my partner were violently beaten, and it was one of the most terrifying and traumatic moments of my life. And to add insult to injury, quite literally, when I spoke out about it online, I was canceled afterwards and called a liar for my experience. The hate went on for months, and it was so bad I had to disable all of my comments across all of my social profiles. And before doing this trek, I was in Western therapy with my partner seeking healing, but I've never been a fan of Western therapy and I've never seen results from it. So I decided, let's go and do this trek. In my mind, I felt like if we could do this very hard, physically taxing thing, then we could get over anything else because everything else would feel so small. And let me tell you, I am in good shape, and this is one of the most physically difficult things I have ever done in my entire life. This is still only about an hour into the hike, and this is where things start to get really steep. The total hike was about 4 or 5 hours, so that lets you know about how much more we had to go. And given that this is an overnight trek and we would be sleeping at the top of the mountain, we had to carry the majority of our supplies ourselves. Here you can see how steep it starts to get, but our group guides were really attentive and made sure not to leave us behind.
It's really hard.
This was another one of the resting points that I was glad for the break. Since I had some light glam done, I had to blot my face so that I wouldn't get holes in my makeup. Some of the other hikers were making fun of me, but I said, hey, you can take the girl out of LA, but you can't take the LA out of the girl.
I've been hiking for about an hour now. I'm really struggling. The backpack is really heavy, maybe like 20 pounds, and we still have 4 more hours. Oh God.
This was another one of the rest stops on a break spot, and I had to climb up this tree. I felt like I was in the movie Fern Gully. Look at this tree. It is so cool. It's huge. The moss on it. And again, you could take the girl out of LA, but you can't take the LA out of the girl. I had to do a tree twerk. Jokes aside, I was just trying to have a good time after so many months of intense misery, trauma, and sitting in all of that. I was so happy to be out in nature, having new experiences, pushing myself outside of my comfort zone, and just meeting new people and doing new things I'd never done before. These vegan Bolt energy chews were an absolute lifesaver with electrolytes in them. Guatemala's wet season is from May to October, and we were there in August, so it started to rain on our hike. But we were prepared with our ponchos. We had to stop for lunch, and I pulled out my vegan lunchbox and tried to find a spot in the covering from the rain, but it was really full, so I had to sit partially in the rain. There were so many dogs, and they were so hungry and came up to all the hikers for food, so of course I had to share my lunch with them. In Guatemala, there's a lot of stray dogs, and it's hard because obviously you can't feed all of them, but I did my best to feed the ones I could. And again, amongst all the challenges, I had to find a moment to have some fun, have some playtime, nurture my inner little girl, and be present in nature. I mean, come on, if you saw a random tree swing, wouldn't you swing on it? It reminded me of my childhood and the tire swing that we had growing up. Here's more of the stray dogs, and they followed us along for a good portion of the hike. I kept saying to this small one, if you can do it with your little legs, so can I. This is where things started to get really crazy on the hike because of the weather and how high we started to get. Altitude sickness is no joke, and I absolutely started to get intense altitude sickness to the point where I had to sit down several times because I was so dizzy and felt like I was about to pass out. As you can see, there's nobody else with us except for the guide because we were the slow ones in the group and the last ones. And while Adrian felt a lot of shame and embarrassment around that, I kept saying, hey, this is our first time doing something like this, and all of these other hikers have done treks like this before. We have not. This is very intense. And I reminded him that that's what these guides are paid for. They are paid to follow us along so that we're safe. You finally made it up to base camp, and I had to poop. This is the bathroom at base camp, and this was the one on the hiking trail on the break stops of why I made sure to hold it. Here I am laughing my ass off as I go to the bathroom. Given that it was a 36-hour trek, there was no way I was going to make it the whole time without having to poop. But the bathroom at base camp was pretty nice considering the other option. After settling in, they brought us some hot soup to warm up. I had a vegan mushroom soup. And then I called this our little refugee bunk. We're literally all sleeping in a bunk 2 stories next to all the other hikers. Here's what it looked like walking in. Literally, we're like refugees, but it was really sweet. There was a strong community vibe, and everybody was really kind and supportive of each other. That community vibe is something you don't experience often elsewhere. Guides cooked everyone dinner. I had a vegan dinner. This is the normal dinner, and we went out by the fire. They served us some red wine. And even though it was August, it was pretty cold outside. The guides brought everybody marshmallows to roast in the fire. We had packed our own that are vegan for me, so that I wouldn't be left out of the marshmallow party. This was really fun and also reminded me of my childhood. Roasting marshmallows by the fire and just enjoying the simpler things and being present. Cacao is one of the main crops in Guatemala, so they made us some hot cocos, which on top of being warm and delicious is packed full of antioxidants. After dinner, we all went to bed because we had to get up early for the trek to the volcano to see the volcano erupt in its full glory.
Oh, my back hurts so bad from sleeping on these wood planks.
Upon waking up in our same clothes from the night before, they served us breakfast, vegan for me, and then the guides delivered us some bad news. They told us that with the rain and how bad the weather was, that we could not hike to the volcano to see it erupt. So essentially, the payout of the whole hiking journey to see the lava in its full form was a bust. All of the other hikers were really disappointed, and I honestly was a bit disappointed too, but for me, this journey was about resilience, strength, and overcoming, and we fucking did it. Seeing the volcano erupt would have been the icing on the cake and getting those really cool photos, but this was the real journey. This is what we came for, and we fucking did it. So we climbed to the top of the mountain just to hike right back down, and it was a 4-hour trek down the mountain. But the trek down wasn't nearly as difficult because obviously we were going downhill, and we had a lot less supplies to carry since we had used them up. But by this point, the outer bands of my knees had really started to hurt. As you can see here, that's why I'm taking such small steps, which led me to an injury by the end of the hike. Keep watching for the injury. The nature was beautiful going down, and I did still feel like I was in the Fern Gully movie. We had made some friends with some of the other hikers in our group, and it was nice to feel that sense of community. Everybody shared the same interest in wanting to see the volcano, but saying, yeah, we did it, we made it, we hiked up here still. And while Western therapy might have helped a lot of people, I've personally never seen the results from it, and this is the kinds of therapy that I lean towards. The kinds that create inner strength, build character, and resilience. And on the last 20 minutes of the hike, here's where I got injured. Since it was all downhill and my knees were hurting so bad, I had a misstep and instinctually grabbed what was next to me in this narrow walkway, and it was a barbed wire fence. It was so stupid, but it was an instinct to brace myself for the fall. I sliced my hand open and it hurt so bad. I banged up my knees and you can see all the blood on my pants. I had almost made it to the end of the hike without an injury. But that injury didn't stop me from completing the hike. The guides walkied over the medic and tended to me, and then helped me down for the last portion of the stairs on the hike. It is not even funny how bad my hand hurt because of how deeply I was sliced. But here I am, still smiling partially through it because I fucking made it. Nothing was gonna stop me from completing this hike. So did this hike make everything else feel smaller in the long run? Abso-fucking-lutely it did. Here's me tired and injured back at the hostel, but I've got fresh clothes on, took a shower there, and was relaxing before the next day's journey to heal our insides with ayahuasca ceremonies.